Hey, welcome everybody to session number 3 under our Studio Masterclass series. My name is Darrin Paley. I'm your host today, giving Jay Tyler a break. I'm here at the Wheatstone factory in New Bern, North Carolina, and we got a great session for you today. First of all, thank everybody. I want to thank everybody for being part of, if you were part of session number 1 and session number 2. If you have not seen those sessions, please go back and take a look at them. There's a lot of great material in there. But today's session, we have some really cool things going on. It's not so much about Wheatstone today, but it's a lot about some of our partners. And the theme of this session today is connecting locations and systems. So we've got some panelists that are going to present to you what they have to offer and how they connect into the Wheatstone ecosystem. That'd be WheatNet IP. And again, if any of you have any questions that you want to give to any of our panelists or myself here at Wheatstone, please go into the chat box and we'll monitor those and answer those either at the end of the session and or during the sessions, depending if we want to get to those questions or not. So who we have for you today is we've got the folks from RCS that is going to show you a little bit about what they have and how tightly integrated they are with the Wheatstone WheatNet IP. Then we have Tieline, the codec company, and Jacob's going to join you in the second part, in the middle of the session, and he's going to show you how their products integrate seamlessly with WheatNet IP, and then what you can do with their stuff to extend your network beyond the studio. And then we've got Philippe Halin, who's with NeoGroupe, NeoSIP, and he was in our booth at the last NAB and unexpectedly received a awesome award. The joy on his face and the happiness of his award receiving was unexpected, and he was showing how tightly the NeoSIP phone system ties into WheatNet IP and can further enhance your AoIP network. So with further ado, I'm going to hand this session over to Nathan or Nate Mumford and Jeff Zigler with RCS, and let them have the floor and show you what they've got for all you engineers out there and taking part in this session. So, guys, floor is yours, and I am not going to interrupt, and I'll talk when you guys are finished.
You guys can hear me right? Hear me okay?
Welcome. Awesome. I can. Yes, sir.
Excellent. And I'm following the chat on my little side monitor here, but I'm going to try to see the questions and maybe save them for afterwards, just to respect both Philippe and Jacob's time. So I thought we would kick this off. First off, thank you to Wheatstone for having us here. We love working with you guys. There's so many great things we do together. And I love this education knowledge series that we have. It's just really helpful. So thank you for having us. Really appreciate it. Jeff is my counterpart over here. He's been filling in as well with some of the hardware questions that we have. But I thought Jeff and I were talking about remote studios and how we should start this off. And we thought, let's focus on Zeta and talk about play streams and building that foundation to the house, right? Because if we know how to build a main studio, we then can take those properties, those workflows, and just repeat it for a remote studio, right? Something like that. And so then if I go over here, I'm just going to go and open up my computers over here. And I upped my resolution, so bear with me for my screen resolution here. And I'm going to go to my stream groups down the bottom right-hand side. And so what you're seeing here is essentially these are going to be our audio outputs available. As a reminder, Zeta is an enterprise solution. What that means is that we have essentially all of our Zeta computers, and we identify all of our Wheatstone, WheatNet audio play streams as part of that We activity. So what we're doing here is we're essentially assigning those play streams to specific stations. We're not necessarily moving computers here, but we are identifying play streams and then assigning them over here. So at the core of this, remote or main studio, you can see here, these are my audio outputs, right? And you can see I have some Wheatstone 1, 2, and 3, and then 4, 4, 4. Now, what we're looking at here essentially is this short name is just a little kind of user-friendly short name you see in the on-air sequencer just right there. That VAC is kind of an engineering, kind of internal stream name. For us, we just kind of call that machine to virtual audio cable 1. And you can see there's 1, 1, 1, 2, so on and so forth. But really, we'll look over here at the audio output, right? Notice, by the way, different ways you can confirm, you can configure this. So we have WheatNet 1, 2, and 3 right here, and that's going to be assigned to our one channel versus just 444 for another station. And what we're doing here is we're identifying these play streams on the left, and I'm going to assign these over here on the right-hand side. So notice again, there's that 1, 2, and 3. And what I'm doing here is I'm saying I'm going to group these together in a stream group. I'm going to call it a sequencer RCS hot AC. I'm going to assign that to my RCS hot AC. And what that does is it allows us to essentially start to build this foundation across the board. So when I have certain things like a remote studio or a backup studio, what we call as a hot spare, is we essentially have a brand new output over here. And now notice that in hot AC, we have 1, 2, and 3. So on the boards, we have 1, 2, and 3. But maybe on like a classic rocker, for example, and but don't worry about those, I'm just looking to refresh them. We have 4, 4, and 4. So we can take those discrete playouts. From Zeta's perspective, we have 1, 2, and 3, but from a hardware perspective, we're just going to output that on one single channel. And what that allows you to do is to really customize and budget your play streams, right? How many you have, how many stations. And what we've seen is users really just kind of telling us what they want to do, right? So for example, I want to have my primary station, in this case, RCS hot AC. I want 3 channels on the board. But classic rock, it's just an HD2, nothing crazy. I'll have 1 output on the board. First, I might have something like an audition group, right? Where I have all my audition goes to 1 channel, but then I have a utility channel. And that could be your Z player stacks, hotkeys. So you're differentiating the audition preview, if you will, versus utility, some of those secondary modules inside of Zeta. So what we're doing here is we're essentially building this out, right? We're customizing this. And notice again, I can really, really customize this for those news talk stations. We have some users that want to go and say, hey, I want to put only the spots, right, out of a certain channel, something like that. So everything's playing over here, but just the spots play over here. I can customize that if I wanted to. Sports logs. You can have a separate sports sequencer. It's kind of utility sequencer, utility log, and we can then change that output for just that particular log, right? That's kind of what we're doing here, right? So we're building this foundation, and now we're going to start to incorporate some of those remote studio aspects. And for that, I'm going to close this. I'm not going to save my changes. I'm going to close this as well. Not going to save my changes. And what we're doing here is we're talking about hot sparing. Now, that hot sparing essentially is a backup studio, wherever that could be. Backup playout. This could be remote or it's kind of on-prem. But what you're seeing here is right here is that audio hot sparing. We're defining that studio, who's in charge of that sequencer. And once again, notice our friends, the stream groups are over here. Again, isolated into a sequencer stream group, hotkeys, stacks, and Z player, those utility stream groups, if you will. In this example, we have the sequencer hot spare and then HK, hotkeys, stacks, hot spare, right? Again, isolating those back and forth. Now, the beauty about Zeta is we're pretty flexible on our end, right? Again, from an engineering perspective, start to think of this is what I want to do. That let us help guide you there to that solution. So you can see we have live metadata and GPIO hot sparing. So you can actually go and move both the live metadata and the GPIO over for that remote studio. And this could be a backup studio. This could be for a remote morning show, however you interpret this, right? And so what we're doing here is we're defining that studio, that hot sparing, the live metadata, and the GPIO hot sparing. And what we can do is we can kind of see this live in real time. So I'm going to my tools over here. I'm going to grab my stream group monitor. In fact, I'm grabbing a second one to show you how we have the primary and the hot spare. So I'm going to dock those side by side, put them up here a little bit. Oop, and I'm going to go over here. And that's going to do this here. Fun fact, Control in Zeta, you don't have to dock those modules. And I'm going to go to my hot spare manager here at the very bottom. And I'm going to do here is I'm going to pick this. And I'm going to do my hot AC. And I'm going to do this and pick my hot spare. I'm going to make this nice and big so you can see it. So when this triggers the next element, you're going to see, there we go, that they're kind of in sync, but not necessarily. And that's because my hot spare manager over here, I have nothing armed right now. And if I bring this down just a little bit, you'll see I'm playing 1A, 1B, and 1C. Those are my short names. And I go over here, you can see the same 1A, 1B, and there's an 11A, B, and C over here. And what I'm going to do is, based on my predefined settings, I'm going to essentially arm, right? I'm going to arm that hot spare, that remote studio, hit yes on here, and you can see now we're both in sync at the same exact time, right? Because we're essentially arming. So I have both playouts. Main studio, pots 1, 2, and 3, And this 11A, 11B, and 11C, if you go back into my Wheatstone configuration, is actually one output. It's all getting a discrete mix down to one output. So they're all in sync right here. And if I activate this, I am then moving those studios over, including live metadata and the GPIOs to that remote studio. Just for time purposes, I'll leave it as ARM for right now. But what I can do here is I'm going to move this just to the back here for a second. I have my hotkeys here. I have an RCS hot AC, activate the hot spare and deactivate the hot spare. And now these are just macros that I defined inside of Zeta that says, okay, I want to go and enable that studio, right? So there's that 1A, 1B, 1C. I'm going to click on this, and you're going to notice it's going to flip over to 11A, 11B, and 11C. Now, I have it armed, so these will stay the same, but the idea here is that I just moved all of my playouts that are remote studio with a hotkey, right? And if I go back and I have the reverse in the Zeta world, we don't like to say like undo, so to speak. We like to redo, like I want you to move here. I want you to move here. I want you to turn off these routes, turn on that route. I want you to turn off those routes and turn on this backup route. So I'm going to deactivate that here, returning back to the 1A, 1C. See that? And if I go in here, and if I disarm that remote studio, yes, I'm going to disarm that studio. What you'll see is I fire this next element, we're now out of sync. This is just a locally cached audio playing on 11C. When that's done, it's going to stop, wait, and idle. Whereas the main primary stream group is executing the on-air log. And once again, if I activate this and arm it, you're going to see them back in sync playing at the same exact time. See that? So that's kind of how we can both monitor, but also build that foundation, right? And so we have a lot of users. We have one of our users in the Midwest that has 5 control rooms, 5 prod rooms. And the idea is that they sit down at any one of their boards. If they go profile 1, they're on the air on station 1. If they go to 2, they're on the air on station 2. And the beauty is I go to them and say, as an on-air talent, tell me what's going on here. And the beauty is they say, I have no idea. I just press 1 and I know I'm on the air on 1. And that's what engineers love because we want to keep it nice and simple, right? That's the idea. And again, we can customize this as well, however you want to organize that. Notice the play streams we have available. 3 can be 3, 3 can be 1, however you want to design that in the Wheatstone environment. And of course, just very briefly for time, how do we connect those remote operations, the remote sites? We have Zeta Site Replication, which is a built-in RCS service. It essentially acts as a we activity where we save your profiles, your logins, audio backup schedules, all of that. They're all in sync with one another, right? It's a synced operation. So what I can do is I can be in New York and I can essentially log in as user Nate, and there's all my audio and my layout. And then I can log out, jump to, let's say, Ogallala, Nebraska. I can log in as Nate, and all my information is still there with 2 different Zeta servers. And that's because we have site replication. Versus, let's say, Zcast, more remote operation, which is a, hey, I need this audio, I need this voice track, I need this schedule, right? Push and a pull, if you will. And again, that keyword there too is also hot sparing. And one last thing, even more remote to build on that, we have our Zeta to go. So if I have in here, right, these are my hotkeys. If I jump to my Zeta to go, which is just a Chrome browser, that's all it is, I have those same routes over here. So we have some users that are designing this inside of Zeta and then executing some of these workflows remotely with our Zeta to go. So as we start to introduce all these different pieces of the remote air chain, the idea here is we're just building that foundation of stream groups, right? We're saying this we're playing out, we're assigning this to a station, and that's where we're playing out, and we have a primary station and a backup hot spare. And that hot spare, again, could be a remote studio if you wanted to. We keep the site rep in Zcast to keep the audio and content in sync. And by the way, we also have direct control of Umixes. We have feed-through routing with WeNet as well, which is perfect for many networks. And don't forget, Zeta, what we do in the Zeta world is we define an audio route, and then we have over 500 executable commands to essentially do triggers on that behavior, right? So I want you to take that audio route, move that audio route, stop that audio route, so on and so forth. And so I thought I'd just leave you guys one last thing, talk about some of the integration we have with Wheatstone. So what I did over here is I'm going to system, configuration system, and I'm going to go to my command mappings. And I built 2 kind of fake little mappings here. And shout out to Tom over in support, Tom Lawler. I think we all kind of know Tom. He's phenomenal. And I just kind of stole his little remote studio example he has here. So again, don't quote me on this one. This is just kind of show you a rough guide of how it'll look. And you can see here what I did is I have a little kind of a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The idea that the first thing is I'm moving the sequencer from the main RCS hot AC to the Studio 2. I'm then turning on the remote feed, right? I'm turning off the main feed. I'm returning the sequencer back when we're done to the mainstream group. I'm turning off the main, or sorry, turning on the main, turning off the remote, right? That type of idea. And of course, Tom gave me an extra little bonus one, which was how to enable his WeNet boards. And he essentially over has here, you can just see I did a little quick, I cheated a little bit here, a little on, off, on, off, on, off, and that includes a mic too. So what he does is when he flips his remote studio, he also gets his board nice and clean as he's flipping over. So again, identifying what you want to happen here. And one last thing I want to show you, configuration and computers, talking about the integration we have with our friends at Wheatstone. GPO routes. We have a little Wheatstone device type over here as well. So you can quickly and easily grab some of those GPIs and GPOs. And you can see I just have a quick little leading one here, as well as they turn some yellow tech lights off and then just trigger the board and activate on there too. So really, really great stuff you can do here. Again, we want to establish the foundation of play streams, because as we start to combine these more advanced pieces of the air chain, the core still stays the same. So, and just a reminder, if any questions for Jeff or myself, we're always here to help out. You can reach out. We're always here to answer questions, and we'll hang around too for the end to answer any questions you may have. So, and with that, I will throw it back over to Darrin.
Yeah, Nate, man, Nate and Jeff, that's some good stuff. Now, Nate, just a thing to so they can understand. You guys, I mean, we've been working together for a long time as partners, long time, and of course, that relationship, Jeff, really solidified when iHeart basically committed to Wheatstone as their go-to for all their markets, and with that, we really had to do a tight integration. So a lot of your integration, you're using a couple things when you integrate with Wheatstone. You're using our ACI, which I would imagine that's all your background routing, talking to Wheatstone, telling us what to do.
SLIO, you name it.
Yep. Basically creating a macro to say, do all of this, Wheatstone, and at the same time, feed us back whatever information you need. And then you're also using the driver and most likely probably some of the LIOs or SLIOs, which is software logic input output. So you're using a combination of those to make RCS the heartbeat of not only route everything in the Wheatstone world, but also bring that all up to visualize to your users. Is that correct? Am I on the right track there?
No, you are right on the money. And in fact, we're talking some pretty severe, super level functions. Like let's say we incorporate in Navigator and we start to do console preset change outs. So hey, I'm coming up on this day part. I got to relay out the console. We can queue all these things right from setup.
Right.
So
yeah,
the integration, like you mentioned, is huge.
Yeah, and that makes the console react to what the user in the operational world is asking for, and that also makes all the routes happen to put them on the air or whatnot. So, and we have three portions of our ACI, and you guys have as developers and partners, and same thing with Tieline and the NeoSIP guys. We have a console ACI, we have a WheatNet IP routing ACI, and then we have essentially a driver ACI. So when you guys develop this, you're really developing all the control to specifically to the console or specifically to the routing or all as one. So, guys, all the I guess attendees for this, again, if you have any questions for Nate or Jeff, I just wanted to hit a little bit on how they're doing all this with us. We're not really doing anything from WheatNet IP to them, so to say. They're more or less telling us what to do and route and how to be set up. Some of it has to be set up on the WheatNet IP side of things, but all those triggers come from the RCS side, and they're hooks to what you guys want to do. So if you guys have any questions, we're getting in a little deep on that side of things, but these are the questions people have. How is it done?
That's why we're here.
So
Darrin, Jeff Schmidt has a question. He says he has a station using Station Playlist as a playout software. Is there a command line option to remotely automate console settings and signal routing? He's asking.
Okay. That's probably more identified at the Wheatstone side of things. There will be. It all depends on one. I need a little more information for you. What surface do you have? There's some things that sounds like you want to tie both a console, I'm going to call it a console event, and a route at the same time. So can that be done? Yes. However, depending what surfaces you have, and then it's a combination of a couple things that got to be joined together. If you don't have a particular surface like our LXC or GSX,
he's got a DMX 16 with mixed engine. Just so you know.
Okay, so that's what he has. Oh, I see there now. Just popped up. What we're going to end up having to do on that is, if you're using RCS, they'd be able to trigger both of those through a key on their screen where it would fire the surface event and the call it the macro or salvo that you have on the navigator side. If you don't want to do it through the automation, you want to do it another way, then what you would have to do with Wheatstone is you'd have to go into our scripting application, whether that would be just scripting alone or our screen builder application or something that holds a script, and then you would be able to trigger that script to happen to activate both of those at the same time. So great question. Again, multiple ways to skin the cat, if you want to call it that. It's a matter of what tools do you have? Do you have RCS? Do you have something so it's scriptable? And then how do you want to trigger it? So could it be triggered by a GPIO? Could be triggered by an SLIO? Can be triggered by something in the log that tells to fire this SLIO? Could be through the ACI. So there's multiple ways to do it. So Jeff, reach out to us if that's something you want to accomplish, and then we can direct you in the right direction afterwards and figure that out for you.
And Darrin, if I can jump in for 2 seconds. Sorry.
Go ahead.
One of the things I noticed by working with a lot of these webinars and users, one of the big pieces of advice I can give for you, Jeff, is be specific on what you want the outcome to be. Don't really worry about getting there just yet. Worry about the outcome. I want this to happen, because what you see here is a room full of people who have done it many different ways, and we can tell you what's the best for you based on what you want the outcome to be. If you don't tell us what you want the outcome to be, we'll kind of get you to a destination that we're familiar with, but it might not be your best solution. So we're definitely here to help.
You want to pick the long way home. You want to pick the easy.
Yeah. So,
yeah.
Sorry, I jumped in.
Yeah, thanks for jumping in on that. And Nate, you're right. The best way to accomplish some of these things is, I call it a napkin drawing.
Yeah.
Take a napkin, take a sheet of paper, take wherever you're at, and just say, this is what I want to happen. And then present that, or take that to, Nate or Jeff, or take it to the Wheatstone guys, or take it to whoever it is. And then if you see that roadmap, then it helps us visualize as manufacturers to make this all happen. And but if you're just kind of explaining it, it's hard to grasp from our perspective. But if you have that napkin drawing, then it's a matter of, hey, you got to lay this out here, you got to lay this out here. Now, how do we tie them together? You can do it here, or you can do it here, or you can do it here, and we can give you those roadmaps, just like Nate said. So,
absolutely.
Dee, sorry, what did you?
Evan has one other question if we have time for it. He says, is it possible to integrate studio switching in Zeta with the screen builder interface? In his case, it would make more sense that his engineers are usually responsible for the studio switching end. So I don't know who would answer that. Maybe.
So is it possible for create studio switching through Screen Builder? Let's see. Is it possible to integrate studio switching in Zeta with Screen Builder interface?
I believe, doesn't Screen Builder allow you to trigger an SLIO?
Exactly it.
Yeah,
so that would be exactly it. We would tie something to an SLIO that would then tell our script to activate. So yes. It's through Zeta. You'd be able to do that through Zeta, and then have a button on Zeta or something that would then create that.
Yep, we could do it by hotkey. We could do it by time. Yeah. We could do it by a macro, where when this happens, do that.
And then don't remember, once it's in that Zeta and configured, we have Zeta and Zeta to go to execute that particular trigger.
Yep. So again, that question, I mean, reach out to us at Wheatstone, or reach out to the RCS guys. Between us, we'll accomplish what you want to accomplish. We'll find out the answers. So there you go. All right, guys, RCS guys, if questions come in, Dee will point out to them afterwards at the end of the session. We're going to try to keep this to 45 minutes and then give the 15-minute session. And so I appreciate what you guys have presented. There's a lot of integration there. Again, years and years and years of development and work together. I see Jeff rolling his eyes.
Decades, truly
but
decades.
Absolutely true. Sometimes as manufacturers work together, we both roll our eyes and no, you guys got to do that, or no, you guys got to do that, or oh, show it to me, or no, we'll just send you some gear. Then can you make? Anyways, Jeff, we've been down that road many a times.
Oh yeah.
Sometimes arguing both ways, but at the end we got it done.
It gets
That's what
solved. I
So-
From
promise you
Brian,
it
our
gets solved.
installer,
Yeah,
we will make it work.
Yeah, great partners, great people, and we appreciate you guys being here. So, next section to our session is going to be Jacob Daniluck with Tieline, the codec company. Jacob and I have known each other for a long time. Tieline's been a partner with Wheatstone for a long time in their Merlin products and some of their older products. And recently with the Gateway, we've gone the extra step. So, Jacob Daniluck, I'm going to hand this section over to you, and we have a lot of common customers doing some really cool things, extending their studios using your products. And Jacob, floor's yours, man. And again, appreciate you being here. Appreciate you guys being a Wheatstone partner and supporting us, and we support you. And go ahead, buddy.
Yeah, no, thank you guys. I'm going to share my screen here. Today I'm going to go over some diagrams because kind of as Darren's alluded to, there's so many different applications for Tieline products. We can help you get audio from point A to point B to point Z. You name it, we can probably do it for audio delivery. So what I have up here is just kind of a basic overview of all of our major use cases. This is not all of them by any means. So like on the left-hand side, you can start with our remote capabilities. We can get remote audio from a sporting venue, remote trucks, remote vans, mobile journalists out on the field. We can get all that audio back to the studio, to MCR. We can remotely control all of those links, and then we can essentially output the audio via WheatNet IP, pull it back in. We can trigger relays and LIOs from the field to the studio, or we can extend the WheatNet studio from Studio A to Studio B in a whole nother studio. So we can essentially kind of help you bridge that gap, if you will, with a handful of stereo links, as well as with a boatload of LIOs to be able to stream between the two facilities. So then on the right-hand side, we have things like your affiliate stations. We can help you with syndication. So if you have your Wheatstone audio, you're doing our talk show and you need to syndicate that out to 20, 30, 40 sites, not a problem. We can handle all of that over an IP network. One of our customers recently, we worked with them in publishing a joint article, Cochico Media up in Quebec. They decided to bring all of their syndication and distribution in-house. And now they're able to syndicate outbound with the Tieline gateway system, running real-time redundancy across up to 4 links. And we'll get into that redundancy stuff here in a second. You can work with studio to transmitter links, of course. We can help you with backup STLs, studio to studio links, or the gateway itself can also be your IceCast CDN uplink. So that way you can just go straight IceCast or Shoutcast straight from the Tieline gateway out to your smartphone, PC clients, or other Tieline codecs or other codecs in general that can decode HTTP feeds. This is kind of a mirror diagram of it's a crude drawing of kind of what Cochico has done here. They have their multiple studios. You have a studio at the top, studio at the bottom. Here they're both interconnected via a pair of gateways, and they're able to pass multiple stereo links between the two, as well as logic control. So LIOs, they're able to essentially control either studio from either location. They also have a handful of leftover channels on the Tieline gateway that are idle. So those idle channels, we don't want those to go to waste. We want to utilize those resources as much as possible. So they've started to adopt like our remote equipment, like the Tieline Via or our smartphone app, Report It, and they're able to tie those right back into either facility that they see fit. And again, they can still pass LIO commands from the field using physical GPIOs tied into the Tieline system. And then we can output those via WheatNet LIOs back at the studio end. So we have seamless integration so that way your remote talent can control things like RCS remotely through LIOs and trigger them as they need to. And then last but not least, on the right-hand side, this is where the syndication comes in. They have multiple public internet links, and they have a few private links as well. So they're able to take a single stereo feed and feed that out to a total of, I think in their case, it's about 10 sites per stereo stream. And each site has multiple internet links. And we're able to real-time recover data through hitless packet switching, which we call SmartStream Plus. Speaking of SmartStream Plus, because it's sometimes a hard protocol to describe for those who may not understand the concept of hitless packet switching. The idea is your remote unit here on the left sends across multiple network links, ideally different and isolated and unique links. We're streaming across the public internet. They're all taking different routes back to the studio or MCR. And then the studio Tieline receiver will buffer all 4 or up to 4 links at once per stream, and will output you a single seamless audio feed out of the gateway into the WheatNet system. So you don't have to worry about spotty cellular connections or satellite links or spotty just cable modems. You don't have to worry about that anymore, utilizing our SmartStream Plus technology and picking up 2 or maybe 3 or 4 cheap internet providers. And honestly, 2 is all you need. We've extended it to 4 because we have some customers who wanted that extra redundancy. But in reality, since we're only talking audio here, 2 is what we have found is more or less ideal for most situations. But the other benefit with Tieline systems, because you start to see codecs everywhere here and there, with Tieline, we give you this redundancy protocol, but we also give you a failover capabilities too. So we can take our SmartStream Plus over, let's say, a wireless cellular link, a Wi-Fi link, and a LAN link all at the same time. And we can say, God forbid, knock on wood, if all 3 of those links fail, we can fail over to a secondary Ethernet or a secondary cellular link. And that can be a real-time failover. So even though you lost your major links, we can still keep you up and on the air 99.999% of the time with our system. We also offer things like bonded connections. We have several customers like in Alaska, the northern Yukon, middle of nowhere type scenarios where data bandwidth is just hard to get sometimes or reliably. So we even have bonding capabilities built into the codec where we will essentially round robin your data in a single stream back to the studio. So now we're able to get you a higher quality connection of audio back to the studio without sacrificing any quality that you want for that broadcast. But something that the Wheatstone guys did ask me to kind of go over a little bit, and sorry for the math and a lot of text, but sometimes it's best to just see the math in front of you and you can take screenshots, or there's a QR code here and you can just check it out on our website. We have a data calculator. But when it comes to bandwidth, because we are talking compressed or uncompressed data, Wheatstone is uncompressed links between their WheatNet environment. Correct me if I'm wrong, Darrin, at any point, please, on that. It's linear audio between the 2. But now once you go over that public internet link, you may or may not be able to. It depends. I always say it depends on the links you're able to get. If you're able to get a dark fiber link, great. You can probably push uncompressed. If you can't, if you're stuck on a cellular link, you're going to need compression. So like Tieline, for instance, we offer everything from like AAC to enhanced aptX, G711, 722, the MP2, MP3, our own proprietary algorithms, and Opus as compression suite algorithms that you can stream real-time data to. And you'll see I put a little bit of the stats up into the left, but we can also do linear audio up to 96 kilohertz to pass up to 45 kilohertz throughput. When you're talking about bandwidth, though, there's 2 things you have to keep in mind. You have your max bit rate and your max bandwidth consumed. They are different. One is measured in bits per second. One is measured in bytes per second. One is about how your data carrier will record and report that data. They'll typically measure in megabytes or gigabytes of data. But when you're talking about data streaming, you're going to talk about bit rates per second, typically. So here's a few little ideas like Opus Mono, as an example, running in 24 kilobits, only requires 44 kilobits per second. Or if you convert that to bytes, per hour or per day, you're talking maybe 19 megabits or megabytes per minute or per hour, versus if you go uncompressed on a per day level, if you had a 24/7 365 link running over a cellular network and you wanted uncompressed running at 96 kilohertz 24 bits, you're talking about 24 25 gigabytes of data. That's a lot of bandwidth consumed, depending on your capabilities with your provider, because some are still metered, some are not, especially once you get into the specialized providers who can offer like quality of service or prioritized services or guaranteed bandwidth. They start to meter you on your data consumption. So when you're doing remotes or studio to studio links, you do have to worry about that once you go over certain types of networks. So it's just something to keep in mind. But to show you guys a little bit of like our integration and stuff, for those of you who have a Tieline, you might be familiar with this interface. It's our web interface. Very simple web GUI. And honestly, when it came to the Merlin, you had to use this to a degree and the Razor software to actually integrate everything. Nowadays, with the Tieline gateway, which this is what this is looking at, we actually don't even have to go into the Tieline GUI to work with WheatNet. We can go directly into Navigator. So now we have full essentially Navigator integration to the extent of I can come in here, look for my Tieline gateway. I found my gateway. I can now build my audio I/O for my sources or my destinations. But most importantly, I give you 64 mappable inputs and outputs. And these are mappable. You can either have WheatNet control the Tieline system via logic, so you can tell us to connect and disconnect to specific studios or specific remote sites. Wheatstone can tell us to do that, or we can just give status alerts back to Wheatstone saying, hey, this channel's connected, this stream is connected, or this specific person using this specific device is now connected on this channel. And I can map all of that via relays. Or as one of the major use cases with us with Wheatstone is studio to studio sites. So when you want to cross from one facility, let's say in Arizona to New York City, you might not only want to pass your 8 stereo streams, so I can come in here and say, let's do an 8 stereo link here. Oh, come on. So I can say 8 stereo peer-to-peer. I can go through here, pre-configure all of the destination addresses for the same New York facility or the Phoenix facility or wherever. But then I can also come in here to my Tieline system here, and I can say, let's go into, control rules. And I can start making these what we call reflective rules. So I can essentially say, use input to toggle a remote output. So I can say I want a physical GPIO or the GPI1 physically on the back of the gateway to tie to a remote WheatNet LIO of 1. And now I can transparently send that across the stream. Or vice versa, I can keep it all in the WheatNet world. So I can come in here into virtual inputs, and then I can stream it back and forth between the two facilities as I see fit. So we have a lot of LIO control between our two platforms, but we also do have a lot of audio control between our two platforms as well. So if you need anything for like remotes or syndication, Tieline has you covered on that. We can definitely help you integrate that into your Wheatstone environment and help you get your audio to where you need it to go in a reliable format. With that said, I will hand it back over to Darrin, and let's hear what the NeoGroupe guys have to say.
Awesome, Jacob. Jacob, thank you. Man, good stuff. I don't know who presented better, RCS or you. There's a trophy at hand here, guys. I don't know what the tiebreaker is going to be. We're going to have to make one up. But awesome stuff.
A vote. We're going to have to do a poll in the chat, I think.
Yeah. I have a feeling Philippe's going to take this. I don't know, guys.
Yeah.
I'd be shaking
tiebreaker.
Yeah, tiebreaker, a tie line breaker. But hey, Jacob, a quick question for you.
Mm-hmm.
The integration with Wheatstone that you showed is awesome. You had a great content there showing all these uses that you guys have. And just like with the RCS guys, we've had a relationship with Tieline for such a long time. But it seems like you've taken that gateway to the next level. And to me, looking at your navigator, that gateway appears to be just like a blade.
It is. It more or less is. So that's something that's unique about Tieline and Wheatstone is our integration is actually not on PC driver or ACIs, etc. It is dedicated Wheatstone hardware built into the Tieline gateway system. So years ago, we sent you guys the Tieline gateways.
Yeah.
You guys worked with our engineering team of specifically what our needs were and our requirements were.
Yep.
And you guys designed us a little daughter card for our board. So now it lives inside the gateway. Whenever you buy a Tieline gateway, that's why we always say if you need WheatNet, you have to specify Wheatstone. If not, it's an after the fact upgrade. But it's a little daughter card that goes right in, and now it enables your Tieline whatever. We have 3 models of the gateway, gateway 4 from 4 monos and 8 that is scalable up to 16. That's 8 monos or 16 monos. And our gateway 16 with that integration essentially makes it an equal blade in terms of IO capacity and LIO capability.
That's right.
Too.
That's right. And so basically with doing that, when you put the gateway on the Wheatstone network, it's like give it an ID, give it an IP address. It appears in your navigator with generic names. You name your inputs, you name your outputs, you get all your LIOs. It's just like a blade.
Yeah.
So,
well, and to add on to that too, because I see a question from Chris, and it kind of ties right into this as well about PTP and clocking. We are clocked through the WheatNet metronome. So we act like a Wheatstone blade. Now, you need a blade to make us operate properly, but we still act and feel as if it was a blade. So you, the users who are already familiar with Navigator, all you have to do is just learn our control system for connecting and disconnecting. But in terms of your audio IOs or LIOs, you already know how to do that. In fact, I'd argue you might know more about Navigator than some of people here that have used a Tieline outside of Wheatstone before, because you're already familiar with that system.
That's right. No, that's awesome. We've done a lot of large scale projects together, Jacob, just to name a few over the past, the A and the government. And there's been some really, really cool stuff done all over the world from a central location using the gateways. And so just so some of our viewers know, Jacob also has a WheatNet IP environment in his lab. So if you call Jacob up and need some answers, he can do testing right there. I by no means am an expert in Tieline. I know enough to be dangerous, right? But enough to be dangerous to pass them along to you, and you give them all the answers, and then it becomes a great partnership for the customer and Wheatstone. So we appreciate you being here today, sharing with me and everybody else what Tieline has and how you work with us, showing some of the screens to maybe put some people at ease. And again, any of the I see there's someone just put in, we love Tieline. We run our remote broadcast caravan with switches live to output to one of our brands with WheatNet salvos triggered by Tieline GPIO, and then we use Zeta to go to trigger the playout. Man, 2 of our partners right here, somebody using them both to make it so easy.
Beautiful.
So this is great. This is awesome. So Jacob, thank you for being here. Hopefully you can hang out.
Will do.
Any of the viewers, if you've got any questions for Jacob, please put them in the comment section there, and we'll get to them towards the end. If you'd rather send those directly to us, you're more than welcome to. So, Jacob, thank you. So, we're running a little bit over time here, but it looks like people are hanging out and enjoying this session. So, our next panelist that's up is a great friend that I had the pleasure to meet 2 or 3 years ago. I think at NAB originally, and then IBC. I think Philippe and I really, really got to know each other. Not so much on the show floor, but I think it was at dinner, Philippe, if you remember that. We talked a lot, and such a great guy. And with that and his consistency and ideas and coming to Wheatstone saying, we want to work with you. And we opened that door, and Philippe really stepped in and made their product, wanting to work with us. And I think at last year's NAB, he really proved it and got an award for their their SIP phone system. Philippe is with NeoGroupe, NeoSIP, and I'm going to hand the floor over to him. And they have a great phone solution that ties excellent and really tightly with WheatNet IP. And Philippe, floor is yours, my friend. You can speak in French a little bit if you want. I'm not a great translator.
Sure.
I'll understand. But nonetheless, Philippe, all you, buddy.
Thank you very much, Darrin. So I got like 3 minutes. Let me switch over to diagrams so we can explain.
You don't have 3 minutes. You have 5, 10, 15 minutes, whatever you need.
What we're doing.
All right.
We are doing a phone system that ties into any type of console and the WheatNet IP network, of course. And that will take anything that is external input for your different shows, which is not controlled as it is with Jacob, because with Tieline, you are controlling both sides of things and you can have redundancy and everything, as opposed to when you're having just people call you on the phone, you don't control the end, the other end on the other side. So we made a cloud-based that can be on-prem, but it's a cloud-based system named NeoSIP, and that runs over VoIP, which is how to get VoIP phones into your AoIP environment and audio environment at the consoles. So then I'm going to share that diagram, which is here. So if you see that, we're presenting it in the cloud implementation, but of course we have people who have been asking to get their entire system in-house on-premise and to get their phone lines in via trunks, and we can do that as well. But the preferred and most efficient way to get the system running is presented here. So in the upper part, we have the cloud. So in the cloud, we usually have a hosted machine for a client, which hosts an asterisk, a free PBX, and our NeoSIP server. That's a machine that usually runs under Linux. And that can take public telephone network PSTN communications, which come in natively with G711, mostly with G711. So the usual 3 kilohertz voice that you may have with phones. It can take, if you have a SIP compatible codec, that will be able to hook up to the same system here and can use then the same codecs than Jacob was mentioning earlier on, for example, Opus. It can also use external soft phones. So if you have people who are regularly on the show, you can, instead of giving them some expensive hardware, you can just ask them to download an app from the store, and you can hook them up into the system as well. And we also have the WebRTC options, which allow you to just send a link to one of your to send a link to your artist or guest that you may have on the show. The whole purpose of this is to have all of those communication methods land into the same NeoScreener. So NeoScreener is our well-known, it's quite known call screening interface that's been in use in a number of talk shows around the planet. So we have installs really around the planet, from Malaysia to the United States to the Caribbean, Russia, Europe, everywhere. And that's used for stations that do take a lot of incoming phone calls, so that it is easy for each user there to actually place calls onto air. Let me get back to this diagram. So this NeoScreener I just showed you is in the studios, or it can even be remote, because if you have everything in the cloud, as I'm showing here, you can actually drive your calls and air your calls from anywhere in the world, using either a NeoScreener, as I showed here, or a NeoSIP phone, which is this small phone that you have here, which has the same kind of user interface. A NeoSIP phone will work even at an NAB on the NAB Wi-Fi to control a cloud system that is based back in DC. So you can really screen calls across the country, and you can even air them from wherever you want, as long as you have a little bit of internet. How does this work on the studio side? We have a small Windows PC on each side that needs to have audio over IP. So we dump audio into Wheatnet IP to the different consoles in this way. And on this machine, there's a Wheatnet IP driver or any WDM audio driver. If you have your beloved analog sound card that you want to have into your production studio, which still has this unreplaced console, you can also use that for hybrids to put into the into that studio console. And that's about it. The link between that machine here and the cloud machine is based on an Opus codec, so higher quality. And all of what we're doing here is just plain VoIP SIP plus our protocol named NeoTCP, but that's plain VoIP SIP, meaning that any VoIP technician can actually understand what we're doing with those systems. We worked a lot on reconnection and reliability in a little bit in the same way than what Tieline does, even though we are not reaching the same level because we cannot control this other end that I was mentioning. That's what the system is. We also integrated this, we're talking about the Wheatstone consoles, and that was shown at the at NAB. We have this little panel that you see here that is inside the consoles, and that controls the system as well. So you can, I don't know if I can make this run, you can control sorry, here you're going to see it a little bit more. You can control lines, change of hybrid, put it on another hybrid, and then put that up there, and you'll get a signal from the phone that shows up there in the console. So the operation is possible off the phone system from the console itself, receiving calls, or dialing out on multiple lines, all VoIP. That's about it almost. One last thing I need to tell you is that here I've been talking about PSTN with G711. This input here can be POTS if you are still using POTS, even though we strongly urge and recommend that people do get away from POTS, and they are being extinguished in a number of places. We are also taking ISDN if needed by means of a converting box that's here in the middle. You would put in the middle here between your PSTN and your free PBX here that converts your ISDN to VoIP. And of course, we take native VoIP, whether it's online or whether it's a subscriber border controllers, a router that your telephone company brings into your location for your phones. That's about it. One last thing about configuration. Here we're looking at our configuration utility. That config utility shows me that there is, I wanted to show you the studios here. So we have a bunch of studios which are defined into this thing here. And here are the audio channels that are assigned to fader 1 and fader 2 in each of those studios. So if I'm going to this other studio, you'll see here that it changes the different Wheatnet IP outputs, 7 and 11 in this case. This one has likely 6 and 10, and XTU has 5 and 9, and so on. That's about it.
Cool. So Philippe, awesome, man. That is great stuff. Now, Philippe, I got a question for you. I saw on the last screen that you said on the configuration screen for the audio channels. That is basically the number of drivers that you buy with our Wheatstone audio driver. Is that correct? So if you bought a 4-channel driver, you would essentially have 4 of those to move around.
4 faders. You can split across 4 consoles, or put them all into just one console, or split them the way you want, 1 and 3. Or
sure. So
and
Yeah. So if we bought a 24 channel driver and installed it on your, on your system, you'd have 24 phone lines that you can put across 5 different stations or whatever it be, and then assign those to whichever consoles at any given time, routed around or whatever it might be. Correct?
Yes, we've just done that at Energy in Belgium, Energy
Okay.
Strategies. So I think it's like 60, using 16 channels out of your 24 channel driver.
Okay.
And it's been running for 3 weeks now because we're converting quite a bit.
Perfect. And then
Recently.
the SOIOs that we have in our driver, those would drive things through our GPIOs that could trigger, lights or some sort of things to let them know a phone call's coming in. So we have the ability to receive that from you guys to transfer to wherever we need to be. And then our hardware panel that you showed that you had at NAB, that's our 12 line panel. But we also have a 6-line panel for smaller consoles that we can integrate or interface over to the NeoSIP phone system. So, and Philippe, correct me if I'm wrong, at NAB, our panel that we had in the console was also replicating what you had on your handset, right? They were mirroring each other?
Yes. Well,
Yes.
it's pointing to the same studio. So whatever happens on the phones, on the software, or on the control panel is distributed to all the connected devices.
Right.
It's
Perfect.
really a client server type of thing.
Cool. So the
And one
customer
of the
can have a handset in the studio, or they can also have the console controller in the studio and use either one.
each, yeah, independently and as they wish. Also,
Awesome.
one use case, and this is a little bit like what RCS does, is you can pull up the phone lines in 2 different studios, even across the country. So you can have one console in LA, for example, and a console in New York, and you can answer calls from Connecticut, place it on hold, and then air it in LA in just one button press. And then if you place this back on hold, you can air it in New York as well in just one button click from wherever. So it eases up a lot the external communication to come into the station. And of course, this is linked with our full database, and we're strong on databases.
Very, very cool. I see a question came in here from Jeff Kofsky. They asked, how would you handle rollover calls or lines, rollover lines?
It depends what you mean by rollover.
Jeff, can you expand on what you mean by rollover, and we can get that answered for you, but before the session ends? That would be great if you can do that. Now, while we're waiting for him to answer on there, Philippe, I know you're overseas. How do people get a hold of you on stateside here in the U.S. or Canada, in North America? Is there a distributor here they can reach out to? Do they reach out to you directly?
Yes, we have a distributor, which is our master distributor in the US, that's InRush. So they also provide a phone service that's named InRush Voice. And they've been our partners on that product because they have first of all, the 24/7 that's needed on that kind of products. And they have a real expertise in terms of VoIP and such. So we are relying on them for that support. And on our end, we have one strong point still, is that we are awake 6 hours before the East Coast. So whenever someone calls up at 5 a.m. in the morning for the morning show, hey, it's 11 here, we've had 12 dozen coffees already, so we're ready to answer in case Chicago is not. So there's always a support that's available for our stuff.
Okay. Looks like Jeff responded. He says one number would have 4 lines in the PBX, but only one audio feed to the console.
Okay, so this is typical of, sorry, Jeff is not going to like this. VoIP is a complete new world in terms of, you're not talking about lines any longer. It's more like calls positions into an array. And your resources of your PBX are assigned as needed. So you may have a trunk with like 10 simultaneous communications at the same time, and they will be distributed as need be to the different studios that need them. So if you have one number, an external public number, which is one DID, and direct inward dialing number, so that's your public number of the radio station, it will get to the free PBX. And then it will be handled as different lines, but it actually doesn't use up a copper line. So it's just virtual packets in there. And you can assign them into what we call a fader into the console. And you can go up to 12 calls simultaneously in the same fader. The mix is done at the 3PBX level or at the extension level. So you can have like 3 callers on fader 1 and your guest on fader 2. And you can have, I would urge also you to go to more than 4 lines if you're going to VoIP, because the cost of VoIP is probably 10 times lower than what former ISDN and POTS were. So you can, first of all, it pays for a new phone system, just from the telephone bill itself. And second, it allows you to have more lines per se, or so to say, into your system, so you can really have like 10 people waiting as material or a resource to make a good show, instead of being stuck with like 2 or 3 or 4 lines, which are busied out whenever those lines are taken. Sorry, it sounds a little bit.
No, so it sounds like there's one phone line, and then essentially within NeoSIP, you end up stacking those calls. They still come in, and you can see them sort of stacking in, and then it sounds like you can conference them as well, even though it's one phone number.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. And then what he's saying is, would he need 4 individual PC driver outputs? In that case, no, because you're doing all the summing and all the stuff in that inside NeoSIP, and it's still one feed to a fader on Wheatstone's console.
Yes,
correct?
That's it.
All right. Make sure I was getting that
100% right.
All right. Cool. Cool. Does that hopefully that answers your question, Jeff? And that was a good one. And if you want to dive into that a little deeper, please reach out to Philippe, and he can help you I guess understand it a little bit more if we didn't explain it right. So I got another question here from Chris Jacques. Is there a version of console interface for NeoSIP for the Glass LXE console? Great question. Right now, there is not. It has been discussed internally here at Wheatstone that we maybe take our panel that we have and make that as a drop into the Glass LXE interface. Right now, if there was anything you would use, it would use our screen builder. And screen builder, you can then create your phone panel, and then just like you saw in the video, that hardware version in the console is basically a scriptable device. That's really what that panel is. And Philippe and his team wrote a script that they load into it for it to communicate to NeoSIP. So it'd be no different than taking that script and loading it into Screen Builder, and you would have everything essentially by your Glass LXE. Right next to it, you would have your phone panel. So, but right now we do not have that.
More flexibility using Screen Builder, I think, and how you apply things.
Absolutely, because you can create any buttons you want, or the screen you want, or anything you want with the hardware. That's the hardware. That is what it is, for the most part. But you're right. They can design anything they want. They can make a two line panel, or they can make a 3-line panel. But that would be the way to do it right now if you needed something right now. But we may have something coming out in Glass LXE that we could put a phone panel in there as a drop-in, and then make that work with the NeoSIP guys. And then Jeff said, or the IP12 or 16. So the phone panel, if you're asking about the physical phone panel, Jeff, the 6-line one could fit in the IP12 or 16. The only thing is there's no spare blank input sections in an IP12, IP16. So you would have to be giving up 2 of your faders, making an IP10 or an IP14 to drop in the 2-fader physical phone panel into that console. So it can be done. You just have to give up 2 faders, if that makes sense. Anyways, if there's any more questions, Dee, I don't see, did we answer everything so far, or did you see any questions for RCS or Tieline or NeoSIP?
I think we're pretty much caught up, but I did have one question for Tieline. Okay. Jacob, you had mentioned that that you're doing both, I guess both types of failover, the bonded version and the hitless packet. What's the difference between those two? I'm just curious.
Jacob, unmute.
Unmute. Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
One would think us broadcasters would have this all sorted by now.
Yeah.
Sorry, it's been a long day. So no, great question, D. And it's technically three different ways we can approach this. So we have our SmartStream Plus, which is hitless packet switching, Fuse IP, which is bonding, and then we have just a normal traditional failover. So on the lowest common denominator would be the failover. If Internet Link 1 fails, we can hot swap right over to Internet 2. A lot of people can do it. We can do it with about a half a second or less of dead air in between. That's one way, but you can get dead air through that method. The Fuse IP method, think of that as I can take any two networks like AT&T and Verizon, and I have 5 megabits of throughput on AT&T, 10 megabits on Verizon. I can now create a single 15 megabit link, give or take a few megabits there. So I can aggregate those two connections together to get a higher pipeline back to the studio. Fuse IP, there is no inherent redundancy. It is just a single link going back to the studio. Then the highest tier of redundancy or foolproofness would be the SmartStream Plus. That is our hitless packet switching. So on the packet level, for every single audio frame we are sending duplicate data across a different isolated network. So in theory, if packet A goes through route A and server A on that route fails, well, there goes the audio frame. But the second frame that passes might go through just fine. On the secondary packet A over the secondary route, it might be able to make it all the way to the studio. And that's perfect. So our receiver will sit there and buffer all the different data streams coming into it at once and reassemble things into a seamless packet or a single audio playback. Now, the nice thing about Tieline that I didn't mention is out of those three different protocols, we can stack them all into the same connection profile. So we can have SmartStream Plus, our packet redundancy happening at the high level. God forbid that fails. We can then leverage a bonded connection in addition to our SmartStream Plus. And if those both fail, then we can just fail over to a single wireless link. So you can kind of stack them in a hierarchy format. So that way you can be up and running 24/7, 365 with the worst internet links out there, as long as you have multiple of those worst internet links. Don't just get one. And the other thing too, just the rule of thumb, and this is thinking back to some of our clients like out in universities. If you want to use that redundancy method of our SmartStream Plus, don't just rely on us. Talk to your providers. If you have Comcast and AT&T coming in through the same wall, through the same telephone pole, don't be surprised when a semi-truck hits that pole and you're now off the air. A lot of universities are starting to plan like, I will take my fiber connection from AT&T or L3. I'll take that in from the north side of the building. I'll take my Cox connection over cable from my south side of the building. Or I might take Verizon via wireless. So physically look at how those links are getting to you and make sure there are redundant paths. If you don't want to take that approach, then just get as many ISPs as you can get into the building that you can afford. Would be the other way around that issue if you don't want to physically plan out the routes.
Is that pretty common, that stacked approach to like combining two WheatNet studios over a distance, one's in a region
The SmartStream Plus, yes, just utilizing that. That is our most common use case. And in fact, when most people ask me how to set it up, a product or our support team, our go-to is, do you have two providers? Yes, then let's set up our SmartStream Plus. You will just save a headache down the road. Or if you have that very picky person or employee at your facility who cares about every single little tiny audio drop, because a single audio frame over the grand scheme of a month or a year of streaming could be less than a fraction of a % of the data lost. But if you do have somebody like that, then yeah, go ahead and use SmartStream Plus. Stacking them, that is once I I would say like we have customers who use our equipment for like the Olympics, mission critical sporting events where they gotta get this data back to the studio regardless. Those guys might start to stack everything on top of one another. But for your everyday car remote down the street, that might be overkill. And our Smart Stream Plus would work out just great for you there. Or our bonding protocol would work just great for you. So I always say consider the event, and then that's how you're going to consider your setup. Because not every event is as mission critical as the next event. And the more you layer up on this, the more it is going to cost you in internet links. So it's just something to keep in mind.
Thank you. There's another question here. I think maybe Darrin, you can address. There's a question by Ethan. He says that, is there something on the Wheatstone boards that might change a pinpoint connection, even if it's locked? I'm
Okay.
not sure how to answer that.
Yeah, I think what he's getting at here is basically you have a route and the route has a lock on it, or the engineer has put a lock on it because they want to make sure that somebody doesn't change that cross point without knowing that they changed it. I believe that, or if it's on the fader and the fader's in the on position, it's locking that cross point so somebody doesn't mistakenly take that audio off the console. So I think that's what he's talking to, correct? Okay. So the answer to that is, depending what console you have, yes, but if you don't have, like the LXE or GSX, you can script the button to unlock that connection and then lock it back after whatever's been put on it. So that's done through a script. So GSX and LXE can script on the console. But if you have a console that doesn't have, scriptable capabilities, like, let's call it the E series or the IPE series or the L series, or DMX for that matter, then what you need to do is you need to get a scriptable device to hold a script. So that could be a GP8, it could be a sideboard, it could be a screen builder on a PC. It could be anything that can hold a script, our Blade 4, and create a script that allows you to, when that button is pressed, it tells the script to unlock the signal and then put whatever route is that you want in that script. And then when depressed, lock it back. So that's how we would address that. Again, we probably need a little bit more information on what you have, what WheatNet IP gear you have, what surfaces you have. Again, like Nate said, and we discussed, put it on a napkin of how do you want it all to happen, and then we'd be able to get you the proper answers to accommodate your event, if you want to call it that. Anyway, it looks like we're caught up on questions. Again, anybody watching, if you have any questions for the RCS team or Philippe at NeoSIP or Jacob, please send them in, or send them to myself at Wheatstone here, Darrin Paley at wheatstone.com, or you can reach out to all the guys directly. Dee, do you have anything else for any of us?
Yeah, just a reminder that we have another studio masterclass next Wednesday. We're going to be talking about Screen Builder, touch screens, and soft controls. So be sure to register for that. We also will replay this session. If you'll just go to our website, we have a link actually in the chat box that'll take you there. And finally, we have a digital swag bag that has like documents, videos, that sort of thing that you can download, and you just have to click on that link and get to that. So thank you everyone for coming. We really appreciate it. We'll see you next week.